This is an interview with Edward Sanders, the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. Today we're at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. Today is May 29, 1996. I want to thank you, Mr. Edward Sanders, for coming and being with us today. Just taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us about your involvement in the Civil Rights Movement. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure to be here.
Okay, I just want to start by asking some general questions about your family. What part of Alabama, are your parents from Alabama?
Yes, they are.
Okay, what part of Alabama are they from?
Marion, Alabama.
Marion.
Right, Perry County.
Perry County,
Right.
Okay. Were you born then in Perry County?
I was born in Perry County.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters?
I've got 6 brothers and 4 sisters.
Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Where did you fit in that?
I'm
scheme of
number
things?
2.
Number 2. Okay.
Yeah.
So you had a busy schedule then.
Very
In those
very
early
definitely.
days.
Yeah,
Very
right.
good. Tell me just a bit about your mother and father. What kind of work did your father do?
My father's a steel worker. He came up here in the early 50s, 50 or 51, and went to work in steel mills.
Okay.
And that was after moving from Marion, Alabama, Perry County.
Yeah.
And my mother was pretty much a homemaker, and she did a little domestic work every now and then, but she was pretty much a homemaker up until her middle age, and then she started doing hair beautician and went business for herself.
Okay. Tell me just a bit about their education. How much education did they have?
I think my father had a 6th or 7th grade education.
Mm-hmm.
I know he didn't finish. I'm not sure. I'm thinking he finished elementary school, but I'm not quite sure. I think 6th or 7th grade.
Okay.
Not sure. And my mother probably in 9th or 10th, something like that. Neither one finished high school.
Right. Now, do you remember living in Marion?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, so you basically a Birmingham boy.
Basically, I think I may have been 2, 3 years old.
Right. What community did you live in?
We moved from Marion to a community called Wylam, which is right on the other side of Ensley.
Right. And what do you remember about Wylam?
Well, Wylam Hills at that time, it was a pretty unique community. They had new homes, and I think this is what attracted my parents up, because my dad had just got in the Army a few years prior, and they were able to buy a house, and a brand new house. And he was really the big man in the family for his brothers and sisters, because he had a brand new house.
Yeah, he was sort of setting the trend then for the family.
Right.
Yeah. So he worked for U.S. Steel.
Worked for U.S. Steel.
Out in Fairfield.
Out in Fairfield.
Okay. Fairfield Steel.
Right.
You said you had, 9 brothers and sisters?
Now, 6 brothers and 4 sisters. It's just 10.
So 11 of you. Okay. Big family.
Very large.
Tell me about growing up in that big family.
Well, growing up in a family that size, you had one advantage. Anybody jumped on you, you could go get some help.
Had plenty of help.
Plenty of help.
Yeah.
But growing up is kind of tough when you grow up and you got what I call steps. You know, one brother 5, the other one 6, or on down. A brother and sister about a year apart. So you get used to wearing hand-me-downs. You get used to sharing everything. There's no such thing as your own bed, your own. You share everything.
Right.
And, you just grew up knowing that you had to share.
Where did you start first grade?
I started 1st grade at a school in Wylam. I think it was called Wylam Elementary. And that was in a church building. St. Luke Baptist Church. They let us have school. There was not a school in Wylam at the time before the lights. Well, we lived in Wylam Hills, which was the newer section.
Now, is Wylam a part of Birmingham?
It's in Birmingham, right?
Okay, so that then would have been a part of Birmingham school system.
Right.
But you didn't have a school there, so that
Didn't have a school there.
makeshift school at the church.
A makeshift school at the church.
And how long did you go to school there?
I went to the church. We went there up until I got in the 5th or 6th grade.
What do you remember about your school days?
In that church, a lady named Fanny Thomas was the principal, and she was a teacher. At the time, it was only her. Then she brought in another teacher named Miss Carrie Anderson. And one thing I remember very good is that there was no fooling around. You got your lesson, you were disciplined because she was a no-nonsense player. And another thing that stands out today is that nobody that went to that school went to another school and flunked. You knew how to prepare yourself because Fanny Thomas did not play. And when I say you went and flunked, you didn't flunk because you were not academically prepared.
So that school really, although it was in a church, and you probably had, I don't know what they call it, but mixed classrooms.
Oh yeah.
From first through fifth.
Well, you call it that, but we had one room in a section of that room, everybody, whether you was in the fifth, fourth, third, whatever grade you were in, everybody was right there.
Mm-hmm.
And she would teach, you have you separated, like the fifth sit over here, the fourth sit here,
Right.
over here, third, that type of thing, but everybody was in the same,
Yeah.
within the same little area. Right.
Yeah. That's very interesting because we often talk about what happened with our educational systems, and at that time, seemingly we didn't have any kind of facilities.
Right.
But for some reason, education went on.
Yeah.
Whereas today, we see a different kind of thing happening. And I guess you made something very clear is that there was a lot of discipline there.
Very much so. First, one thing I can distinctly remember, we started every day off with prayer, and you stood up and saluted the flag. And you said
Pledge of
Pledge
Allegiance.
Allegiance, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You did that was every day. And there was corporal punishment involved in. Miss Thomas we didn't have no men teachers in our school the first 6 years I was there. But she was tough as a man you wanted to see. And she administered discipline hard. And then when you got through with school, she went by your house and told your folk.
Double jeopardy.
Double jeopardy.
Yeah. After fifth grade, where did you go?
Went to Council Elementary. That was the closest school. And that was where we graduated. We graduated from fifth to Council. And you actually were given just a little ceremony when you left. And at that time, that was a big deal to go to Council.
How did you get from Wyland to Council?
You caught the bus. We had to walk about maybe 10 blocks, catch the bus. And you get off the bus in the Insula and you walk about another 5 blocks. So that's what we got there. And it was quite exciting. Council had 3 stories and about 1,000 students. And we came from school in a church building where everybody was in one little room. So we were really in the big time. We went to Council.
So that was kind of exciting for you. You moved uptown.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you went from Council from 5th through 8th grade?
5th through 8th. Finished the 8th, you graduated from elementary school.
Right. What do you remember about Council School? Why was that transition from the small school to the big school?
Well, see, at the time, there were only 2 teachers in the school. And when you got to the 5th grade, they just didn't have the resources to carry you on through the 8th grade.
Right.
And they just cut it at that point. I think the board allowed them to do that because there was a need for a school in the area and they wouldn't build a school out there because there wasn't enough students.
Yeah.
And they just let them have a school in that church there for a long time.
Right.
And when you got 6th grade, you just graduated from that school and you went to Council.
How did it feel going to Council?
Well, you felt like a big boy.
Yeah.
First of all, you got a chance to catch the bus by yourself. Then you got a chance to get down there, you got a school with a band, and that was, man, I walked in there, I was totally in another world. Had a lunchroom, which is, we always carried our lunches from home, so I went home for lunch. And that type of thing, it was a move up. So,
Are there any teachers that you remember at Council School that stand out in your mind?
Yes, a lady named Miss McElwain. Miss McElwain was the fiery redhead. She taught mathematics, and she was known to pinch you if you did wrong. She'd walk up to you, and she was real flamboyant. And she was a no-nonsense lady also. And there was a Mr. Lewis. You didn't want to meet him. You did wrong, they go get Mr. Lewis. Hey, he set your butt on fire. Yeah. And then there was Miss King, the choir lady. She's such a beautiful lady and had such a beautiful voice. And there was Mr. Butler, the principal. And they were just people that knew what they were going to do, and they were no nonsense about the jobs, and you just went and did what you had to do. And those people stand out in my mind. even today.
These people sound like they had quite an influence on you. They made an impression on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's good. Now, after council school, then what school did you attend?
Western High School.
Western Old.
You graduated from council. At that time, you had January, May graduations.
Right.
We graduated January of 60, I think it was, went to Western. And sometime in 60, in January of 60, I don't know exactly what date it was.
Right. That transition then from council school to high school was another big step.
I was even bigger. Didn't know what to do. Was lost down there. Football team, band. The band, 100, looked like it was 500 in the band at the time. Mesmerized. Stand out on the street. I used to stay after school just to hear the band. And football teams out there, man, what is this? And it was just a little boy. I was a little boy just consumed by all the actions.
Yeah.
It was something else.
Yeah, in my school over at Winona, Winona Elementary School,
Right.
it's down the hill.
Okay.
And up the hill is the high school.
Okay.
And the big boys would walk through the elementary schoolyard every once in a
Right.
while. And we wanted to get to that high school. So that is an experience.
I'll tell you something else that stands out about Western. I found out what block fee was.
What was block fit?
Well, they had a couple of guys down there that had pretty good reputations for being tough. And these guys, I never forget, old guy named Q and Dan Banks. Guys were rough, man. They had reputations for hurting people, And I was standing around the side of the gym one day, and the guy says, "Hey, you owe 50 cents." I said, 50 cents? What are you talking about? I don't think I'd ever had 50 cents in my life. He said, you need to pay your block fee. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And some of the guys knew that I was, just fresh out of the country. And they started laughing. So this old boy kicked the clip up on me and told me the next time he saw me, I better have his 50 cents.
What do you mean, kick the clip on?
Just walk behind you, just kick your feet under me. I never forgot that. And I saw him, that same guy, I saw him about 5 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about it.
Yeah. Those were some days.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was.
Well, he was incarcerated. I talked to him about it. I just told him, I said, boy, I hadn't made him up. If I ever saw you again, it was going to be bad news. But we laughed about it.
Yeah. Were you involved in any extracurricular activities?
Well, we ran cross country. Back at that time, we went to gym. Everybody had to change out. You ran cross country. I don't care what you did. I don't care what you didn't do. You ran cross country. And we got there, and first thing, to run cross country, because we had, when they have the annual event, they invited all the city schools over, and you actually had a route mapped out that you would run, and you competed for prizes. And the first time I saw it, I couldn't even comprehend it. And they would you had a bracket that you fell in based on your grade. On your grade. If you're in the 9th grade, you're in 9th, 10th graders. Upper class were in 11th, 12th graders. Unless you were really, really good, then they put you up in the trunk of big boys. And I can remember a guy from Urban High School. I can't think of his name right now. He ran the race, ran the wrong division, and he led by a half mile. When he came in, they disqualified him. I boy cried for half a day. I never forgot that.
Yeah.
And it's called being in the wrong place at the right time. And that stuff, I saw him years later. I saw him maybe 15, 20 years later, and we talked about that a lot. And that was one thing that stuck in my mind. And that was something that I always tried to remember. You need to be in the right place at the right time. And I played a little football, and I played a lot of baseball. I played more baseball than I played no basketball.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was tall, but I couldn't play basketball. But I played baseball, and I think I played baseball up until I started band, and then I attempted to join the band out of Western. I took band classes from Mr. Gordon. I didn't make the band.
Amos Gordon.
Yeah, but I didn't make the band at the time. That band was one of the best there was.
Right.
They had a concert band and they had a marching band. And just to go up there and listen to them play, just watch them perform, it was all.
Yeah, the halftime shows of the football games were just as good as the football games.
And back then it meant a lot.
You were at Western Olin in 1963 during the demonstration.
63, right.
You got involved in the movement. How did that happen?
Well, it wasn't an intended thing. What had happened, 63, and I'm expecting around April, when all the marches was going on in March or April.
Yeah, it was
Well, we were already restless, and at that time, I had grown from a little country boy to want to be in the know of what's happening now. I stopped getting molested already and trying to hang out. A couple of girls that caught my eye and that type of thing. So I'm 10th grade, hey, I'm tough. All right, and when the movement came around, the way I heard about it was on campus. Some guy had a crowd of students around, one of our students, and he was telling people what was going on. Hey, we need to go down and march.
Upper class?
Upper class, yeah. We need to go march. We need to go march for our freedom. I'm saying, what freedom? Show you that. I'm saying, hey, what are you talking about? Kept on and kept on. So myself and I would think maybe 3-4 of the guys decided to get together. We followed this guy. And they said, we're going to go downtown. We're going to walk. We're going to go to Parker High School, hook up with Parker, and walk on down, and we're going to march. Man, we took off. It was about 500 of us, it looked like, took off from Western High School. But as we got toward, for the further we got away from the school, the less people were there. Like every 5 or 10 blocks you look around. Yeah. So we did go to Parker. But we had made up my mind, hey, we're going to go down and check it out. We ain't going to chill, man. We ain't crazy. We got to Parker and we kept walking, got downtown. And man, I had never seen nothing like that in my life.
Now that's quite a distance from
Western
to Parker.
Yes, sir.
That's several miles.
That's about maybe 5 or 6 miles.
Yeah.
And we walked from there and then we walked on downtown.
Which is another mile.
But it was exciting for us because we liked the crowd, the noise, and the foolishness that was going on with it. We loved it and we went.
Well, before you left, you were actually in school? I mean, school was in session.
School was in session.
And were you in a classroom and you came out of the classroom, or how did that?
No, I think it was lunchtime. And Western at that time, I think he had 3 lunch periods. I think we were at lunch period because at the time we had started shooting hooky, we'd started cutting classes and that type of thing, and we were out. Anytime you had the lunch, we would be on the first recess, second recess, and third recess. And this is how we came in contact with this guy. I've forgotten the guy's name. Became Jimmy Miller, I want to think, but I'm not sure.
What were your teachers doing or saying at the time about?
At the time, the teachers were they weren't saying anything, but they were watching to see who were the main participants, the main players. And they would go back and confer among themselves. However, the little group that I was with, they had already labeled us as troublemakers or what have you, and we just didn't care. We went out there and man, this was right down our line. Give us a reason not to go to class.
You were 15 or 16 years old?
I was 16, I just turned 16.
Yeah. Right. And that excitement.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what you wanted to see as a young fellow like that.
And you had girls out there. I mean, the girls were out there too, and that's all it took. I mean, just to be with the girls, and what, the girls gonna cut glass too? Hey, yeah, we going.
Yeah. So you make it to Parker. What do you remember about when you got to Parker High School?
What I remember about getting to Parker High School, the crowd had thinned down about maybe 20, 25. We get to Parker. Parker had a group over there. We were across the street at the time. Parker was sitting right on 8th Avenue. And we were over there standing up, and a little short guy named Wilbur Croce. At the time, I didn't know his name. But man, I had never seen somebody talk so fiery. This guy was talking. I found out what his name was later. I didn't know that was his name at the time. And he was talking about how we ought to go down and march and demand our freedom and how we got to take this back, take that back. I was saying, hey man, who's this guy? So we kind of watched him, so we just said, hey man, we ain't gonna go to jail, let's go downtown. We got up there, we all took on down, followed him and some more people, and it looked like as we started left Parker, like the crowd started getting a little heavy. So we get almost downtown, right near the vicinity of 13th Street, somewhere along there, and we started saying, hey, let's break away. We realized we're getting over to the thick of things. We turned a corner, it seemed like, up on, I don't know whether it was 14th, 15th Street or something like that, going toward 5th or 6th Avenue. Man, we ain't never seen so many people and police in our life. So when we got up there, everybody was telling us to go into the church. So we said, okay, let's go in. We all went in and let's go up in the balcony. We ain't going to jail. We get up in the balcony, all of us had our case knives in our pockets. We sit up there just listening. Never forget, Martin Luther King was talking and he had this guy, little bald-headed guy, little bright-skinned bald-headed guy. I want to say Bevel.
James Bevel.
down there with him.
Where they
And he
were
had- Yeah, and he had a couple more people down there. I forgot who they were. But this little bald headed guy stood out. And they started sending people out, 5 or 10 at a time. They would get them up and have them signs. And we noticed they sending girls out. So Martin Luther King looked around and saw what many of the guys moving. So he said, hey fellas, are y'all gonna let these young girls go out by themselves? And he came on, just kept talking about what we're doing this for and all that type of thing. And so man, a bunch of the guys started getting up, so we just leaning over just looking. Hey man, we ain't going to jail, So then they said, hey, before y'all go out, if y'all got weapons in your pocket, you got knives in your pocket, take them out. Gonna send a man around, you got a knife, hold up your hand, give it to this guy, put it in the basket. So no, we ain't gonna give him our knife either. So we said, hey, I tell you what we do, let's hide our knives up here on the seats. We're gonna get our knives. We ain't gonna do this. Boy, they kept talking, and the man started getting real strong, and all of a sudden said, hey man, let's go out. What we'll do, we'll get a sign and walk out here, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna turn and go the other way when we get out here. So
you guys were scheming all along.
all along, not intending to go to jail. We walked down and get that sign and get with a group. I think it was, I want to say 5 or 10, I forget. We get in these groups, we walk out the door. Hey, I ain't never seen nothing like it in my life. We walk out and we start singing some song. I forgot. It's one of the freedom songs.
Yeah.
We started, when we walked out the church, we turned left. Went across the street, there's a traffic light. Went across the street, hit the next sidewalk, took about 4 or 5 steps, and look, 2 or 3 of them big bug police officers over there. The dogs, they had the heads of them dogs like about that big. I ain't never seen that like in my life. So we get over there. She says, all right, you're under arrest for parading without a permit and a whole lot of other stuff. And I'm saying, what the hell is he saying? And they had some yellow school buses. Man, they were lined up everywhere. And at this time, we were wondering, what should we do? Should we take off now? We can't go back that way because people behind us. We can't go this way. What do we want to do? So we were saying, hey man, I hope they heard me put us on the school bus. So that's what they did, put us on the school bus. We got on the school bus and man, we started singing and all these freedom songs and all this stuff, and finally took us off. Kids down Fair Park in 5 Points West. We got down there and they just pulled up and just parked. Got down there, they never let us off the bus. And somebody came and said, hey, carry that group on over to 6th Avenue. We get to 6th Avenue and they had us in the, carried us to the jail, but they didn't carry us inside. Carried us in a little area that was fenced off, it seemed like. And when you drove up in there, it was to the right of the jail and they let everybody go through this fence. And even in the fence, we kept singing songs and some of the guys were climbing over the fence, getting back out. We decided at this point, how are we gonna stay? Having a good time. We stayed out there about 2 or 3 hours and later on we realized that there were several celebrities in there. And mainly one that we recognized was Gregory.
He was actually in
He was actually in jail with us. He had got there before we did.
outside?
No, he was inside with us. I mean, he was inside the jail, the little fence. At this time, he was already there when we got there. So everybody was pointing him out. Gregory, we were getting autographs because I remember because he had on a suit I'd never seen before. Having the kind of suit, the vest had long sleeves and the outer coat stopped right here. And we were so impressed with it. Hey man, that's sharp, blah, blah, blah. We went up and he actually talked to us, so we went back. Man, we talked to a movie star. That type of thing. So we stayed about 3 or 4 hours and all of a sudden we started getting hungry and everything and everybody started saying, hey, we need food, something. And they hadn't given us anything about 6 hours later. And all of a sudden, about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Martin Luther King, 4 or 5 other blacks came up there. They came on 6th Avenue and walked up to the jail, to the fence where we were. And the people hollered, they're not feeding us, they hadn't done this and that, we hadn't had no water, blah, blah. He said, we'll get you some food, we'll get you this and that. So somebody brought some potato chips and stuff back and gave it to us. And by the time, before he could get away, Bull Connor and about 8 or 9 of his police came up. When he came up, he saw Martin Luther King, he told him, hey, nigga, I'm gonna give you 6 seconds to get off 6th Avenue. He said, okay, I'll leave, but I'll be back. And when he said that, hey, the crowd just went wild. Oh man, I mean, that was fire.
Yeah.
We went wild, and we sat there and we witnessed this thing, but they wouldn't jump it. But they had those dogs, man, those guys had to just hold back on those dogs like it's right, they were ready to just attack. And they left, and finally that night, about 8, 9 o'clock, they got us inside. They got us inside the jail, and man, we were all packing, sleep on the floor, standing up, sleeping. Guys sit down, sleep. You get up, sleep while, that type of thing. And the next morning, we went to breakfast. I guess you would call it breakfast. This room, I never forget, it's funny. We go in this little room where they had these long tables. Everybody go in and sit down, you know, we waiting on breakfast. So they had some syrup or something, bread or something, they put it all down in front of you. By the time you sit down, this old guy walked over and held a stick, hit the table. Bam, all right, get up. You should be through it.
Before you even get started.
Before you even got started, wait, it scared us. Everybody jumped up, grabbing stuff, trying to put it in their pockets and stuff like that. So we went on by. We realized they weren't gonna feed us. And we had no lunch. Dinner time, pretty much the same thing. That first, second day. Then on the third day, they started letting us eat. Give us time to finish up. And by this time, the jailers found out Dick Gregory was in there with us. And they jumped Dick Gregory one day. I don't know exactly what happened, but I think one of them spit on Dick Gregory. And when he did, they grabbed him through the bars. And two of the other guys actually attacked him. They went and got 7 or 8 of them big old jailers and police and brought them up in there. But when they did, that's when all the brothers converged. Ain't gonna touch him. And that's when this guy, this preacher, he's out in LA now. He was at my church about 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and I can't think of his name. A heavyset guy from Westfield High School. He set the order for everybody in the jail. In other words, nobody was going to be picking on anybody, and Dick Gregory stayed with him. He stayed with Dick Gregory the whole time to keep people from picking at him. And I can't think of the guy's name. He used to work in a barber shop in Wyoming. But he's out in California now, in LA, and he was here talking. Yeah.
Did you talk about that?
Yeah. He was here.
Now, did they come to get Dick Gregory?
Came to whip him.
But they didn't take him away.
No. The inmates, the guys that went there wouldn't let him, told him, hey, look, you're not going to harm him. So you can get him, you got to get all of us. And that's when everybody started feeling good. And that's when everybody stopped picking at each other now. You know, like
so before then, there was some animosities between individuals, between
a little
communities.
Bit, yeah, like you from Parker, I'm from Urban. You know, we used to have a thing with the guys from Urban.
Right. That's right.
And I think Western used to have a thing with some of the guys from Parker.
Right.
And that type of thing. But basically, everybody just let the differences go.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, we met some guys from Urban and got to be friends with them. And we met some guys from different places and got to be friends with them. And the whole stay, it was about getting out of there, but there was no internal.
Yeah. So the movement provided an avenue by which you could develop some unity.
Sure. For momentarily anyhow. Yeah. And it was there, and I think that was one of the things that happened to make us stay there, that helped us survive being in there. And that kept those jailers off the people that they wanted to attack.
Right. How long were you in?
We stayed 6 days.
6 days.
Yeah.
What would stand out most in your mind about that stay, those 6 days?
When I got out, what was standing out most in my mind was Dick Gregory one night he decided to perform and tell all of his jokes for the guys in there. And we had to just sit around. I mean, the guy was so great. And just the idea that he performed for the guys that was in there, that stands out in my mind. I mean, that'll always be there.
Yeah. I guess that would be an experience.
That was
some kind of comedian.
Yeah, man. The cat. I heard words spoken that I'd never heard before. And I saw these guys talking about what we need to do, how we need to do this and that. Never heard anything like it before. And I hear these guys planning, then I heard the guy saying, when I get out, I'm gonna come right back. You know, and that type of thing. And that was real.
How did you get out?
On that 6th day, I don't know who got us out, but we had stayed 6 days, and my lady named Savannah Cruz Jones, what we used to call her, she was a teacher at Western High School at the time. I didn't even know she was working with the movement. I had no idea that she was involved. They were out there, and they got us out because I think if you stay so many days in it, they'd get you out. And when we were getting processed out, they brought sandwiches and juice and stuff up there. And as we were getting processed out, they would give us sandwiches there. I'm saying, man, I can't believe this. And then when we got out, I looked across the street, there was my dad coming to pick us up. And that was mind blowing because we thought that when we get back, oh man, I got to put up with this old man. You know, he didn't understand this, you know. We were heroes and didn't even know it. And everybody was congratulating us, everybody was patting us on the back. Hey, boy, y'all did something, I'm proud of y'all. They saying, hey, wait a minute.
This was at school?
This at home, yeah, at home mostly.
Yeah.
Guys, we're saying, hey, wait a minute. did you hear what he said? We didn't knowing that we were going to be something like an outcast, but we were actually heroes and had no idea that we would be received like that.
Yeah. So that was a feeling you just cherished then.
Yeah, we went and did something, and all of a sudden we getting praised for it, and we think like that people going to be calling jailbirds. But hey, man, y'all did this from the older people, that really makes me feel good.
Were any of your other brothers and sisters involved?
No, and I don't know for what reason, but I was always sort of the one that would walk on the edge. My rest of my brothers and sisters, and my mom and dad tell me, hey, look, don't do this or don't do that. They probably wouldn't do it. But they tell me, don't do it. I wonder why they don't want me to do that. Let me go and try it out. If they tell me, hey, boy, it's hot, don't touch it, I'm going to say, let me see.
I don't believe that.
And that was the way I was. I was sort of, don't challenge me. If you tell me not to, I want to find out why you tell me not to. Yeah.
What was the reception like when you got back to school?
When we got back to school, everybody pretty much, let me think. When we got back to school, I don't think we went back to Western High School. When we got out, we stayed out and didn't go back formally in the school process. We went back over the summer. We went through the summer.
So you mean you didn't go back to school after the
No,
May at all?
No, we knew they had put us out.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, a lot of guys that were to graduate in May, they couldn't graduate or didn't graduate. And we had heard about it through the grapevine, so we all said, what the heck with it? We won't go back. We just won't go back. We went back in September to start the new school year.
Right.
And on day one, Mr. P.D. Jackson called an assembly on the first day. He got up and he read the names out. I want you students to come forward when I call your name. Robert Dillard, Edward Sanders, Floyd Odell, Bertram Myers. We're saying, okay, hey, let's leave right now. We got together and said, hey, we're not going to go through this. Let's quit right now. Let's transfer. And we left Western right then and went to Parker High School and asked what do we need to do to get in Parker. They told us to go to the board, and we had given them the reasons that, hey, we don't want to go back down because of a whole lot of foolishness and that. They told us what to say. We went down the board and got a transfer.
Is that right? Just like that?
Just like that.
And so you in what, the 11th grade or 12th grade?
I was in 12th grade at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you spent your 12th grade, you finished then at Parker.
I finished Parker.
In Western.
Right.
Okay, well, what was the difference between the two schools, Parker and Western?
Big difference. It was a big difference. When I got to Parker, it seemed like all of the girls were good looking. I'm saying, wow, what is this? And I could, for the first 2 or 3 months over there, I mean, I was just kind of like love struck, it seemed. And then I had several girls who walk up to me and say some things to me that I never had said to them before. I'm saying, man, oh boy. And then I started meeting people, and I started talking to people, and I think I ran across a few guys that had been in the jail with us. And we talked and shared a few experiences over there, and I started having a good time. And then I started dating a little girl that was in my homeroom class, and we started talking to some of the people that were like the principal, some of the men teachers, and they sort of took a liking to it, it seemed like. And me and my buddies, we just kind of had a good time. And we fell in love with Parker. And at the time, guys wanted me to come out and play sports with them. I just didn't do it because I think at the time they told me that you'd have to wait 6 months and you'd have to wait a year in order to participate. So I said, well, what the heck with it? I don't want to participate no how. I'm just going to talk to these girls and have a good time. And basically that's what we did. And I think I found a part-time job working after school. And I got into thinking about what I was going to do after graduating, that type of thing.
What did you do after graduation?
Well, after graduation, I worked during the summer. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me, September's coming around, and this little job you got, this is not you. And I heard a commercial on TV one day about Miles College. I said, tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go out to Miles College and fill out an application. I did. And I went back to some of my teachers, and they looked at my, your records.
Yeah.
They said, Ed, you probably could get a scholarship. And they said, we see what happened to you because at one time it seemed like you were pretty smart. And I said, well, no problem. I just want to get in. And I had to get several of them recommend as recommendations. They recommended me, and I went there and took a test or some sort, a couple of tests, I believe. And I got in. I didn't get a scholarship. I got in. Then the second year, I got a scholarship up there, and I just went from there.
Did you finish out there?
No, I didn't. I stayed until I stayed for about 3 years. I quit in '67. '67, I believe.
And then what did you do after you quit?
I got married. Well, no, take that back. I got married in '66 and quit in '67. I had a baby.
Okay.
And then I had gotten a job with U.S. Steel as an apprentice, not as an apprentice, but a summer student. A summer job at U.S. Steel where I would work from May to September. And I was working like that. And so I think the second year I was working like that, and I got married.
So then you went on to work full time?
For U.S. Steel,
Yeah.
When I quit in '67, I went full time for 1 year, and then the older men kept telling me, hey, boy, don't quit school.
Yeah.
So I started going a little bit, and I would get evening shift and then go to school in the daytime, 1 or 2 hours, and that type of thing. And then finally in '67, I got tired and I quit. Yeah.
Were you working with your father at U.S. Steel?
No, we didn't work together. It was a large place, and I would see him every now and then, but we never worked together. Yeah, we would cross paths.
So you became an electrician, right?
Yeah, I got an apprentice program out there where they had what they call an apprenticeship of, I think it was 4 years. You do that, then once you get through, you qualify as a craftsman once you pass the test.
Right.
And that's what I got into, electrical work there.
Yeah. And you eventually then would go back to school. You went to UAB.
Went back to school. Well, I went back to school. I went to, trying to think, I didn't go to UAB until I quit U.S. Steel. Let's see. I went back to Miles for another semester.
Okay.
Then when I started back, I quit again because my wife said she wanted to go back. And I'm thinking, well, I already got a job. I'll let her go back and finish, and then I'll go back. So she went back in '67. No, she went back in '69, I believe it was. Or something.
Did she go to Miles too?
She went back to Miles, yeah.
Okay.
She went and finished in something, I forgot the year, but she went back and finished. And when she finished, I just kept saying, well, I'm gonna go back. But by that time, we started getting laid off at work. And work, some be off, work, be off. Finally, in and we're gonna skip a lot of years here, in 1981, or 1980, got laid off and I was off about 4 years, or 3 years. And then I couldn't go back. And I think I tried a few things, tried a few businesses and things, and eventually tried to open up a fish market for a few years. And then I got called back to U.S. Steel. I worked a couple of years and laid me off again. I said, that's it, I quit. Well, I didn't really quit, but I went and got another job, and I got a job in the police department. And when they called me back, I refused to go back. And that's when I went to UAB after that second year at the police department. And I did a year and a half over there at UAB, and then I went to Jeff State for a quarter. And I still hadn't got my degree, but I'm gonna go back.
Now you are on the police force at
Yeah,
Fairfield.
right.
How does that feel? 30 years ago, you were being arrested by police who were very antagonistic toward you and all your people. Now you're wearing the uniform. What does that mean?
A lot. It means a whole lot. First of all, in 1968, I applied for the Birmingham Police Department in '68. Wanted to be a police. And I did everything. I had to interview with the captain. My next step was to go to the academy. And I didn't get it because I had been in jail. And they refused to give it to me. Although my case was non-brawl, they refused to give it to me. So I sort of like put it.
This is in '68. Is that
In
right?
'68.
And you were denied a position because of your activity in the movement.
Absolutely. And this was in '68 when I did everything, passed the test, all my interviews, all my psychological screening, and at the time you interviewed with the captain before they sent you to the academy. And at that time I went to interview with the captain. They refused to give me my interview with the captain, and they came in and told me, we're gonna send you to Homewood for an interview. Okay? I said, why? I said, well, we're gonna be perfectly honest with you. You've been in jail, you put somebody in jail, and they look at your record and see where you've been put in jail, that ain't gonna look right. I said, okay. I went to Homewood. Homewood half-heartedly interviewed because they didn't even have blacks at the time. And when I got through with that interview, I realized, look, I don't even think I'm gonna be able to get this job, so I'm just gonna let that go. Fortunately for me, at that time, U.S. Steel, that's when the apprentice program was open, and I went out there and I got on that, which paid about maybe $2,000 or $3,000 a year more. And I took it, and ironically, 20 years later, about 20 years later, that job was still, my records were still on file. And a guy told me about it one day, and he said, you probably still can get the job. And I said, I doubt it. He said, yeah, you can. I went down and they told me, hey, nothing's wrong. And we processed it from there.
Birmingham or Fairfield?
Fairfield.
Okay.
But it was the personnel board. See, Birmingham,
Okay.
Fairfield, all of them is under the personnel board.
Okay, right.
And the reason they were able to send me to home was because all it comes under the Jefferson County Personnel Board.
Right.
And the personnel board, the people told me, hey, it's still here. And I was kind of shocked, and I said, well, I'm gonna just see what it does. And I went and got it, just like that.
Yeah. When you were growing up in your community, what was the relationship between the police department and your community?
When they showed up, you left. When the community I grew up in, Wylam, was not a violent place. It was not a place where the police was always there. We had one or two bootleggers in the community, and there were a fight every now and then, but you didn't see the police that much. But when they did show up, we used to hang on the corner and all that type of thing, and when they drove up, and they rolled the window down, they didn't have to say it, we just left. And I know of only one incident where a police actually jumped on a guy in our community. He was an older guy. The guy's about 20 years old. He got drunk and told him they wanted nothing to him. And he fought him. Almost killed him, but he was brave and fighting. And that was about the only incident I can recall in the community where we had that type of relationship with police, where they actually, however, I was stopped once when I was 16 years old. Myself and 4 or 5 more boys, we ride in a car and had some hubcaps in the trunk of the car. They said we stole them. We said we didn't. They said, you calling us a lie. And they slapped us all the way down Inslee Avenue up there. And talking about, that was something that was, and they told us to run. They tried to get us to run some shooters. At the time, they could have done it because they had what's known now as a fleeing felon act in force. If you run, they kill you. You never be done about it. They tried to get us to run it. I never got to it.
How many of you?
It was 5 of us. 3 of them.
3 of them.
Yeah.
That's
The little guy, about 5 feet 6 inches tall, jumped up and slapped me because I said something to the guy standing next to me. And he jumped off the ground and slapped me. And I looked down at him.
Because you were what, about 6?
I was about 6'3" at the time. 6'3", 6'4", about the same, but I was skinny.
Mm-hmm.
About 100 and maybe 60 pounds, 60, 70 pounds. And I just looked at him, and I think he got mad because I wouldn't cry. But that was only, those 2 incidents were the only 2 negative incidents that I had with police.
Did you attend any of the mass meetings on that particular day?
No, the honest connection we had was that of just leaving the school and following the crowd, coming down, going to jail. But we had no purpose. We had no sense of belonging. We didn't know. We didn't care.
Yes.
We were just with the
You were experimenting and seeing what was going on, what's happening.
Right. We just got sucked up in all of the hoopla and the speeches, the marching, and like I said, the girls was what motivated us. When we saw the girls going out, we followed, would jump on top of a bus to follow the girls. But that's what propelled us into it. We had no intentions of, we didn't leave home. Okay, we know what we got to do. We need to march. We didn't leave home with that. No, just.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today that may relate to your growing up in Birmingham or the movement or anything of that nature?
Growing up in Birmingham, there was a fear while when we were growing up as kids, and that fear was you knew your place. There were some whites that used to live right next to us in our community. You didn't go on their ball plot to play ball. You didn't go in that gym to shoot baskets. When you went into the store, you didn't fraternize with those boys. But it was always, you got to know your place. And at the time, they had the little boards on the buses. When you got on the bus, white and colored on one side, and you always sat behind that thing where it says white and colored, and you didn't question it. You didn't question the water fountains, the white and colored water fountains. And it was a lot of restrictions. And I can remember my daddy being involved in the union out of the plant. And I can remember somebody calling him, telling him that he needed to shut his mouth. And my daddy just sort of like withdrew because he realized that he just couldn't afford to take a chance on getting involved with these people because it would have been a losing situation. But I remember that, and there was a lot of fear at times about the KKK because they were very active.
Did you ever see them?
I never saw them. I never saw them actually, but my folks always told me, don't go up in the wild after a certain time, don't go to Fairfield, and because they were very, very active in those places.
Right.
And we sort of like stayed together. We stayed in our little comfort zone, I think you might want to say.
Yeah, a little cocoon.
Yeah, right.
And we were comfortable.
And you didn't get out of it. You didn't get out of it. You know, one you go to the store, see a white female walking down the street, just go on the other side of the street. That type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And that was the atmosphere that we grew up in. We would walk by Insta Park, where the swimming pool was down there, going to, I think it was McAlpine Park, to swim and be around that type of environment. Because you dare not stop in the white places. You just didn't do that.
How would you compare your days of growing up with the days that you are witnessing today? Younger people.
What I'm witnessing today is a lot of self-destruction. And I want to share something with you. This white guy owns a tire shop in Midfield about 8 years ago. He told me, he said, hey, officer? I said, yeah. He said, I'm gonna tell you something. He said, you know what? Y'all gonna put the Ku Klux Klan out of business. He said, they don't need to do nothing. He told me just like that. And I thought about what he was saying. And he was referring to blacks killing blacks and how when we get a chance, to do something positive for each other, we don't do it. I mean, this guy, he opened my mind like you wouldn't believe. And today, the schooling, we'll go back to what we talked about schooling. The schooling is ridiculous. Prayer was taken out of schools a few years ago. I don't want to think about it, about 15, 20 years ago. Corporal punishment has been taken out. There's no discipline out in schools today. There's no discipline in the community. One thing we did when I was growing up, we had our little bad boy ways about doing things, but we respected institutions, we respected our elderly citizens, we respected the institution of church, and we respected through fear the police officers, and we respected firemen, we respected people of authority like postmen and people like this. Youngsters today don't respect nothing and nobody. And back then, if you called me a nigger, I was highly incensed, pretty much like I am today. But now I hear our youngsters, hey, my nigga, what's going on? And they're doing it in front of whites and this and that. But my nigga, this every other word is my nigga. You know, and I'm appalled at that. It's sad to see that our youngsters at 16 to 17 years old can't even read. It's sad. And we sit by and we're doing nothing to alleviate these problems. We're sitting back waiting on somebody to come and do it for us. Right now in our own communities, a lot of people don't understand, we have got to take charge in our own communities, but we're waiting on somebody else. In the meantime, that our kids are being destroyed daily.
What is the solution?
We got to go back. Men got to start being men. Women got to start being women. You don't have to have a two-parent home to have a successful family. You don't have to have it. You have to use the extended family. And the extended family could be that uncle, it could be the man at church, it could be that man in the community, or that coach, which in a lot of cases when we were coming up, it was that coach or that principal. It was somebody that got your attention. But now what happens, they can't get your attention because if a child is disciplined, the guy's subject to a lawsuit. A preacher or a teacher catch this youngster after hours doing wrong. If he's not careful, he'll be accused of some type of, maybe even a sexual suit. There's so many dangers out there now. And so that's why I go back to say, we have got to stop self-destructing in our own communities.
Why have things changed so much in the last 30 years?
In the last 30 years, what we had, and this might sound stupid, what I'm fixing to say, but immigration was at its highest 30 years ago, I don't think. blacks were forced to stick together for those things like
I
schooling.
mean, segregation then was at the peak. That's what you're saying.
Segregation, I'm sorry, I said immigration meant segregation. I'm sorry. In other words, the white had that was a white world, they had theirs, and you weren't gonna get none of it. And by you not having any of it, then what you had over here, you didn't mind sharing.
Right.
But when that guy opened that door just a little bit to let some of us start migrating from here to there, those of us that got there put the foot down on everybody else that they could, never picking nobody else up. Majority of us. We've forgotten. A lot of us right now, we ride around in our Lexuses, Mercedes. We ride around with $100,000 of gold around our neck. And won't even give Miles College $10 to help educate a brother. We have got to go back to taking care of your own home. See, you can't change America until you fix up your own house. You see, you got to go back and be the man in your house. You got to go back and take charge. Too many women, and I know this is a sexist statement, but I say it. Too many women have come into play as wanting to be the leader. Woman can't lead a man. And I had a very controversial subject going in my church, and I could talk about this all day. Had a young lady come in from Detroit. They were giving her all the oohs and ahs about how she took all these young bad blacks and transformed them, and she made them this, and she's leading them and showing them how to be men. I said, that's a lie. She can't show them how to be a man. And I went and asked her, what are you really doing? And what she was doing, she was getting all of the men in the community that she could rake and scrape, and getting the men, showing them a program where they could lead these boys. So you have got to have, young boys are going to respond to a real man. Can't be weak. I'm from the old school, I believe you got to whoop that butt when they do wrong, when they're young. You can't start when they're 15, 16. You got to get them when they're 2 or 3 years old, give them love, and beat up for them. When they get wrong, tap that butt. Let them know that there's a right and there's a wrong. Let them make them respect other people's property. And we've gotten away from that. You got kids now that go to jail and they come back out thinking they got a star on the shoulder. They don't care. And our teachers are not teaching. Babysitting the kids. You go in a class now, anywhere across Jefferson County, or let's just say anywhere in a predominant black system, around 1 to 3 o'clock, some of the kids, half the kids gonna be asleep or watching some type of TV, not being taught. And there's been a breakdown, an overall breakdown, and I don't have any one particular answer, but we have got to go back and put the family back together. We've got to. People don't care. We're doing any and everything. And how are you going to raise a boy or a young girl? You sitting over on the love seat smoking a joint of marijuana, watching a flick, an X-rated flick over there, and telling them, hey, boy, watch what you say. You can't do it.
Did integration play any role in the change from those days of discipline, of respectability and respect for elders, from that day to this? I mean, the whole system of integration, did that have any positive or negative, play any positive or negative role in the changing of the guard from respect to disrespect?
Yeah, sure. Supposedly after integration came along, I noticed a lot of guys that I used to hang around with started feeling like, I'm going to express myself. Been wanting to cuss this white boy for a long time. Now I'm fixing to go do it. Not necessarily saying that, but what I used to hold back and not say to you, I'm going to tell you now exactly how I feel. And with that came the loosening of the restraints were loosened a little bit. So all of a sudden we start talking back to the preacher. We start talking back to the teacher. We start talking back to other people that normally we wouldn't talk back to. And on and on and on. And then our kids hear stuff, and our kids start talking back to us. And our kids start talking back to Miss Rose stay next door. And what you have is a breakdown in discipline all over. Yeah. That's just the way I feel about it, because the restraints were there for so long. And I go back to what I was saying, you knew where your place was. You knew what you could say to Mr. Charlie.
Mhm.
There was a time when Mr. Charlie would come in the community in that police car and be 25 was on the corner there. One police officer come up and tell you, hey, I want you boys off the corner when I come by. Every one of you were going to be gone. Now it takes 20 officers to get 2 brothers off the corner.
Mhm.
That's right.
So then are you suggesting that we should need to go back to that day when one white officer could get 20 black men off the street?
You know what? That's a subtle suggestion, but you know, we can't go back to that because they rule with fear. Okay? But that type of respect, we need it in our community out of care.
We need to.
And if there was some mechanism we could use to get that, where when an adult in the community will walk up, hey, you guys need to go home, you guys need to restrain yourselves from doing blah, 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 and then they actually do it. We need that, and it's not there. Our gang members, you see gangs now on the streets, they got guns, they got dope. That's very rarely when you find a person out of the community to walk up to them and say, you guys need to leave. You see, but it can be done. It can be done. And the only way you're going to have your community safe is that you start out with a no-nonsense policy. Okay, I like my community where I live. Okay, I like the community I lived in before I moved here where I stay now. I was not going to let a bunch of teenagers, gang members, etc., come in front of my house, next door, across the street, in my area, and ruin what I had developed.
Right.
Because I was going to go out and say something to them, I was going to call the sheriff, I was going to call the police department, and I was going to let them know, I'm not going to tolerate it.
So men must be men.
You got to stand up. You got to take a stand. And I realize now it's not always popular to take a stand. But there again, if you don't stand up for something, I've always been told you'll fall for anything. And basically, men have got to be men. And there's problems everywhere. I'm the president of my lodge, which is one other thing I'd like to tell you about. I was fearful of the police when I was growing up. And the fraternal order police was something that really is stuck in you like, how that's power, that's white power. Well, I'm the president of the Fraternal Order Police Lodge 15 in Fairfield. I've got members from the Birmingham Police Department, Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, Homewood Police Department, Brighton Police Department, Bessemer Police Department, Hewlett Police Department, Vestavia Police Department in the lodge. And if there's one accomplishment that I'm proud of, is that I was elected president of my lodge. Proud of that. I don't necessarily like the job because it's a lot of hassle, but I took it for one reason, just to let people know, and basically let the white boy know, hey, it can be run by a black, and be successfully run by a black. And I've had problems with it. I've had a lot of problems since I've been president. And I told my little group that that's support and stick by me, it's gonna be problems. I'm gonna make some statements that they may or may not like, but hey, if it's to be said or done, as long as I feel like I'm coming with the truth, then I'm gonna speak it.
What's the racial makeup of the lodge?
The racial makeup of the lodge is about, we've got 175 members. And over 125 of those are gonna be white. Yeah, over 125 will be white.
So it is predominantly.
Oh yeah, the FOP is predominantly white, yeah. And that's why I have to last some time knowing that a lot of them didn't want me there, and circumstances got me there. Pretty much the same as I go back to the other incident. I was president of my class when I was in the academy down at the University of Alabama, and we were 2 blacks in the class. And that's still mind-blowing to me today, that they elected me president and I didn't even politic for it. It may have been because I was one of the older guys in the class, and I want to think that may have had something to do with it. And it may have been because they felt like this guy's halfway intelligent, let's elect him. It's a lot of factors, but I never did go back and poll anybody.
Leadership.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take it and just leave it, let it go. Try to do a good job, And that's basically the way I feel about the lodge. How I do go to my pastor and ask for guidance. How to lead. I don't know, man, what to do with these folks.
You always need that spirit of guidance.
Yes.
Well, Sergeant Sanders, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and sit with me today.
Okay.
And we'd probably like to do this again sometime.
Man, my pleasure. I've enjoyed talking to you. I hope this comes out all right, man.
Yeah.
I don't want it to come out like a comedy. That's probably what it's going to be.
No.
Comedy of errors.
I'm sure it's going to be good.
Oh, boy.